How was the trip?
It was great. Good trip.
I'm glad I didn't get a call.
Yeah.
Good evening and welcome to the Friday, September 20th special call meeting of the Hoover City Council. I'll call the meeting to order and ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Council President Lyda.
Here.
Council Pro-Tem Posey. Councilmember Swiney.
Here.
Councilmember Driver. Councilmember Murphy.
Present.
Councilmember Middlebrooks.
Here.
Councilmember McClinton.
Here. With all 7 members present, we will proceed having a quorum. We have one resolution on the agenda tonight. That's resolution number 8264-24. Mr. Corley, please read the resolution.
This resolution approves the budget for the fiscal year 2025.
Mr. President, I move for approval of resolution number 8264-24.
Second. We have a motion and a second. I know, Mayor, would you like to kick us off with a statement?
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
Good evening. It's good to see everyone on this Friday afternoon, right before a ball game, 2 ball games, and other events as well. So if I may, let me just start off by thanking each of you for the opportunity to present this 2025 budget. I'd like to start by thanking you, the council, for all of your hard work, and I know that each of you have been deliberating quite a bit on this and working with our staff, our accounting team. What a tremendous job they have done. I'm just so grateful for them. A lot of very dedicated, sharp folks down there moving us ahead. And especially our department heads that are back there. We've had a rough couple of weeks, but I asked them to sharpen their pencils and they did just that. So thank y'all, each and every one of you. I really appreciate that. The budget reflects our continued commitment to our employees and our workforce, the upkeep and investment in our growing infrastructure, and our dedication to the schools, public safety, and our neighborhood. In this budget, you'll find nearly $6.5 million allocated for raises and new positions, with a primary focus on addressing staffing needs in our finance department. We're proposing over $12 million in capital projects which are spread throughout the city. And just to highlight a few, we have allocated over $1.2 million for parks and over $2 million for infrastructure updates and repairs at the library. We have $3.6 million for road paving along with multiple sidewalks and playground improvements. Additionally, we've earmarked $500,000 for new vehicles. As you can see, the list that you've been provided with, it covers many, many essential needs. There's been an extensive discussion about funding Elevate Hoover. You'll see I reduced the recommendation from $300,000 to $100,000. We understand that there is new leadership in place at the Chamber, and while we know they have a great vision, they may not have been able to achieve all of their goals due to leadership transition. So we want them to be successful, but we also want to ensure that the Chamber is heading in the right direction. And therefore, I will ask that these funds, although budgeted, not be allocated until the Chamber comes back before the Council to restate their vision and outline how the funds will be utilized. I'm excited for the new Chamber President, Nan Baldwin, and she is here tonight. Thank you so much, Nan and Rowan. We appreciate both of you being here. So, with that said, before I close and turn it over to Ms. Cornett, I want to emphasize that this is a conservative budget that addresses many, many critical needs. I'm proud to present this budget knowing that we are fiscally sound and blessed with a healthy reserve. And with that, I will ask Ms. Cornett to come up and present the budget to you tonight. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Mayor. Council, Wendy, would you advance to the next slide? I won't reiterate all of the items in the budget. We already had a previous session where we looked at those things, but really want to hit the differences or the changes from the last time. We appreciate the feedback that Mr. Posey had collected and shared with us. And so the changes that are presented here were made in light of that feedback that we received. So as the mayor said, committed to people, we care about our people. There haven't been a lot of changes, a little bit of swapping up between some of the positions and upgrades, which we'll talk about in just a second. That same commitment to reducing our operating expenses and applying some common sense to our budgeting. And then we've had a little bit of change in prioritization of capital projects that I'd like to hit as well. So on the next slide, what you'll see are the changes from the previous presentation. So as the mayor said, removing the full $300,000 that was dedicated to Elevate Hoover, removing the 200 of the 300 to allow $100,000 to remain in the budget. A few positions were swapped out. So one of the finance positions, it was the financial analyst and the custodial supervisor were removed for the time being, and we replaced those with a fire inspector, a public works equipment operator, and a police lieutenant that were all new positions. Removed a remodel and some dollars allocated for some ice machines, and then added another upgrade for the court and a park renovation in Bluff Park, as was prioritized by our Parks and Rec board. There was significant feedback that we should allocate some of the budget stabilization fund to be able to do some important projects for the future of Hoover. And so, and the legal expenses associated with the healthcare authority getting underway. Most of us know that the certificate of need was approved earlier this week, which was great news. So these are legal fees associated with leases and RFPs that'll be necessary to get that project underway. On the next slide, you will see a new, what I'll call one-pager result of the changes that were made. This is still a balanced budget, as you can see in the general fund. More than $7 million surplus or excess of revenues over expenditures. On the next page, you'll notice that yes, we are transferring a good amount out of the general fund to cover some projects and expenses in the special revenues, as well as some of the capital projects that were on that prioritized list. So you have where we would land in the general fund, a little under $67 million in general fund balance based on that budget. So to get into a little bit more detail of those changes and how are the effects of those changes on our personnel and operating, on the next page, let's start with the biggest piece, which were the personnel changes. So again, this is a fresh list of the new positions now that are being presented to you for approval. And then a new list that includes those changes for the upgrades as well. No change to the change in car allowance stipend, but just under $900,000 increase in our personnel costs that were over and above the raises and the COLA adjustment. So that brought our general fund salaries up to a little over $92 million and a little over $9 million in the special revenues. On the next page, you will see a detail of the capital and other one-time projects. There has been little change to this project list, mostly reprioritization of the Parks and Rec and Hoover Met projects based on feedback from the Parks and Rec board. So we're still planning on using our excess and some accumulated revenue, interest revenue from the bond fund, as well as some of the special revenue funds here on this list. And then on the next page, you see a more detailed list that is reflecting those reprioritized capital projects and other one-time items on this list. So If you go to the next slide right there, thank you. That brings us to a total of a little over $12 million in capital projects and other one-time things, which I'm happy to say that I think that is something that we can afford. I think that's the last slide in the presentation, but in the packets that you have before you, there is detail supporting all of those expenditures by department for operating. And you have more detail related to the personnel numbers and how we arrived at those for each of the funds as well in the back of your packets.
Thank you, Ms. Cornett. Any questions from the body on what Ms. Cornett has reviewed?
No questions, Mr. President, but I do have a comment, if I may.
Sure.
So I just wanted to express my appreciation to the mayor and the council for accommodating my schedule this week. So we were trying to balance a couple of different interests. One, making sure that the staff has enough time to implement these changes before October 1st, and at the same time, making sure that all of the council members could be present. So it is unusual for us to have a meeting at 5:30 on a Friday evening, and I apologize for the inconvenience of that, but I really appreciate being able to be here to vote on something as important as the city budget.
So I want to echo that, and I think we've talked about, from a meeting perspective, to try to work to have a lot of meetings at that 5 o'clock mark anyway, because we have residents that get off work and have other things to do. So thank you for pushing that effort. I only have one comment, and I see a lot of capital investments allocated in this particular budget. I would ask the council in February when we get our projections, because typically in February we know the actual revenue that we have coming in from a comparable standpoint, and if that growth is going well, to consider adding or amending the budget to include scope of service for stormwater as it relates to condition assessment and inventory analysis at that present time. I do notice some engineering departments working extremely hard. We have stormwater engineering of Green Valley allocated for the design of phase 1, which should be finished, this year, and then capital be allocated the following. But to ask the council to, consider that during that February, so we can start down. The engineering department has roughly 7 different phases. They have put it in zones, and the goal is to go through each phase to do a condition assessment to know what you have in the inventory, so you can begin to build your capital improvement plan down the road, because that's going to be a very lengthy 30, 40, 50, 60-year plan. That's just the way that, from an infrastructure standpoint. So that's all I have, Mr. President, is the President's point.
Very good. Any other comments or questions from the body?
Yes, sir, Mr. President.
Yes, sir.
Once again, this seems like one of the easier budget years to me. Councilman Posey, Jennifer, Ken, the mayor, thank y'all for that, working through that. I do have a couple of questions. First, the bond money for the Performing Arts Center, is that included in this budget, or is that a conversation for a later date?
We have not budgeted any expenditures from the bond funds that were allocated to the Performing Arts Center.
That's a conversation for a later date.
Yes.
I know we always have lots of requests and everyone's passionate about different things. This time around, the council came back with a few suggestions, and most of those are granted, so thank you for that easy transition. There are a couple of positions that I had out or requested. I didn't expect to get them all to begin with, so I do want to say that I do think the fleet needs to be looked at for succession wise. I think that there does need to be a shop foreman there at some point. There's one position that I would request further for consideration tonight would be the Public Works crew leader to supervisor. I do feel like that is justified at a cost of $13,000. And that would be really my only ask for tonight, is that we would include that. Otherwise, you know, there's things in here that I can live with. So I guess, are you taking amendments now, or do you want to hold off on that?
We have a motion on the floor and a second. That motion can be amended.
So I would like to amend to include Public Works crew leader to supervisor upgrade at a cost of $13,000.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any comments or questions on the motion?
Mr. President,
Yes, sir.
as it stands right now, what is our surplus in terms of revenue to expenditures at this moment,
Based on this budget?
based on this budget?
So based on this budget,
It's
our
close.
It's close.
excess is 7 million before transfers.
Okay,
That's a little misleading because, as we know, there are special revenue funds that fund some operations of the city that we have to contribute money to, and then the allocation of capital projects. So there's a net draw of $11 million out of the general fund to support the special revenue funds and the capital projects that were included in this proposal.
okay.
So our excess is 7 million, but then we're using a little over 10.8 of that excess, so,
But in injecting stabilization money,
sorry.
with the stabilization money, you get closer.
Yes,
So you're closer to really push.
right.
Yeah, I want to see the,
The budget stabilization fund is included in that general fund balance. It's a council designated or council committed portion of the fund balance. And so when we use that up, you're using up the fund balance in total, but that restriction is going away.
okay. So would it put us at a deficit if we were to add the position? Or would it be wiser to, at further conversations coming Monday night about expenditures, to hold that until that time, next Monday night, when we have our next meeting? I know that's a loaded question. I feel like, from what we've been through, this is very tight. And that, you know, in the past, we have amended budgets after the fact. And you talked about mid-year or something like that. It may be better to hold that and amend it at another time. That's what we have, and come back and amend that. In my opinion, that's just, I'm one person out of 7 up here, that's my opinion.
We do have a handful of other personnel, requests that got taken off that we said we were gonna come back and review at mid-year. And so that upgrade could be considered if the council wanted to do it then, together with those, as an option.
Any other comments from the body on the motion?
Yeah, just quick, Councilman Middlebrooks, is that fleet, is it fleet department?
That would be Public Works Department.
Public Works? Okay. I said it last time, I can do it one more time. Nothing to change on this particular one. But again, I will love to know medical rescue units. So we transport quite a bit, and we make a certain dollar amount on that transfer. And between City of Birmingham and also, has UNB West open? Is that open? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, it's open, okay. So between, Birmingham and then exit, is that one? I must say exit 1. We transport quite a bit. Long term, I like to know, what per each rescue unit put in place. My understanding, they pretty much, I don't know if they pay holistically all 100%, but they pay for it itself, right? And last time I saw the numbers, the fire department, 60% of their calls are medical, no longer fire. So I would love to know that mid-year as well too, what that looks like as far as, adding a rescue unit, and current rescue unit, what they bring to revenue. And the police as well, so I know we added a police lieutenant, and you can just Google the city of Hoover Public Safety. I think we won just about every award it is to win as far as safe at schools, the whole 9 yards. Just reevaluating that as well too is, I think, critical just mid-year. I performed a ride along with the police department some time back. It's amazing how people that want to do wrong don't want to do it in our city limits. And what that means is it's no different than a good hamburger place. You'll drive several miles for a good hamburger and skip over some. Criminals will skip over this city and go somewhere else. I hate that they do that, but we have a really good image, and we definitely don't want to lose that to the work of the police department. So I just want to make that statement mid-year to understand what that looks like on both of those entities. Mr. President,
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Murphy. Any other comments, John?
I do have one comment, if you
Yes,
don't
sir.
mind. Again, thank y'all for all your hard work. I know it's unglamorous, and we appreciate it. To concur on or piggyback on Mr. Murphy's comment about police, I think that I understand we all want to have a better COLA than we have here. And I do know that we have other cities around us that are giving a lot more. And I think that being in Hoover, if you want to keep the best employees, you got to pay the best and give the best, because they're working overtime and they're working hard hours. So I would like this body to revisit our 6-month reserve, not to squander it, because it's the envy of most cities in the Southeast. And that's what gives us our nice AAA rating as well. But I would think that that 6-month reserve, while well-intended and wise, also has some consequences to it. Because that monthly reserve, let's say it takes $12 million a month to run the city. 3 years, 5 years from now, it may be 15 million, 16 million. It's gonna go up, it's not gonna go down. We have to feed that beast. And to me, we should be able to tweak it, not like I say squander it, but to be able to take a step to where we could raise a COLA, like right now today, we could do that if we had a way to tweak that and redo the ordinance that we did. Because I think that having a reserve is a great thing, like having an emergency fund, but if you can't use it, what's it for? It's like my wife's fine china cabinet. I haven't used it in years. So I think that if we can do that to help increase employee morale, it'd be a wise thing going forward. So I would hope my colleagues would think about doing that in the near future. Thank you.
We have a motion and a second to amend the motion to include the fleet position that has been mentioned. I will now call for a vote. Public Works, thank you for the correction, Councilor Middlebrooks. I'll now call for a vote. All in favor of the amendment, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Madam Clerk, please call the roll on that motion, please.
Council Pro-Tem Posey, Councilmember Swiney,
Aye.
Councilmember Driver,
Aye.
Councilmember Murphy,
Aye.
Councilmember Middlebrooks,
Aye.
Councilmember McClinton,
Aye.
Council President Lyda.
Nay. I believe the vote is 5 ayes and 2 nays. The motion carries and the amendment is adopted. We now have an amended approval of the resolution. Any more questions or comments from the body tonight?
Mr. President, I just make one more and thank Jennifer, Ken, the mayor. I know I've talked to you all three at first thing in the morning and almost late at night when I was going to put my youngest to bed. So, and I really want to emphasize there's been a lot of stuff on social media today that this was not the mayor put together a proposal and nobody else reviewed it. Everybody in this room that works for the city of Hoover as an elected official was involved in this process, whether it was from the beginning when you started collecting things together and all the way through the budget hearings, through the first presentation, this presentation. It's not just the council president and the mayor that make decisions on finances in this city. It is every elected official is involved in this process, and it takes the executive branch and the legislative branch to get this done. So thank you all for putting the time and the hard work to get to this point.
Thank you, Councilman Posey. If my math's right, the changes that we made this week represent less than 1/100%. 0.0003. $6,000. It was a net difference, right? We're talking $181 million budget, and the net change was $6,000.
It's pretty tight.
It's pretty tight. It's highly complimentary of the staff and my colleagues up here in working toward that. Any questions or comments from the visitors in the audience tonight? I want to, Mr. Smith, come on up. While Mr. Smith's coming up, I want to compliment the folks from the Green Valley neighborhood, specifically Miss Gina Wilcox, who for the last several years have been tremendous advocates. And Gina, I'm going to put you in my Advocacy Hall of Fame. And it's an esteemed group, but it showcases how you get things done in government. Not by coming to this microphone and belittling or criticizing, but by advocating in a positive way. And you truly are. You set the benchmark. I hope your girls are paying attention to how your mom handled herself and how she represented our neighborhood, because I'm your neighbor too. So I can't wait to break ground on that sidewalk, cut a ribbon, and wear it out with my sneakers. Thank y'all. Mr. Smith.
Mr. President, I'm sorry that you weren't here Monday. Mr. Posey ran a great meeting. I brought up then about having the budget available either at the clerk's office and the library. Has been historically done for decades. And I was eventually contacted by the clerk's office and was told that there was a document available on the website. This is the document. I was able to put it together with a paperclip. If y'all remember the budgets that I know I used to carry around, it was this thick. This was the 2019 budget. And if you look at the sticky notes, those were the questions that I had back then. And I'm not talking about the content of the budget, because I really don't know what it is, because I haven't had access to it. I hope and trust that each of you have, and have done your due diligence in reading the entire document and not voting on a Cliff Note version, because you're voting on the entire document. And I would trust that you have seen the full document and just not a shortened version.
I can tell you the 2024 version is about twice that big.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Smith.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. I gotta say, I didn't feel very welcome. You see, I'm here in some of my ballroom gear. I'm supposed to be at a gala right now, but this was important enough for me to make this stop here. And frankly, this may be some of my fault, because I'm on the road and I can't really just sit down and commit like I used to keeping up with things. But I feel that it's a little premature to pass this budget. I think it came out, Thursday? And I know, again, I'm not an expert, but I still have a lot of questions. Starting with, why would we schedule this meeting at 5:30 on a Friday when we have Hoover football and other things going? But it looks like there's millions of dollars for this Riverwalk development for both the healthcare authorities' prepaid rent as well as the city's own rent. Now that's $3 million. I don't really understand that. Does this budget take into account the money needed for the upkeep of this Riverwalk building, or is the city gonna try and get around that through monthly amendments to the budget? I'm just confused. Does the city even know how much it's going to cost to get the Riverwalk building updated, renovated to house a medical facility? I mean, I think, Mayor, you mentioned maybe having a town hall or some other forum where we can really comb through it, because at the end of the day, it's us, the Hoover residents, who foot this bill. It's not you guys, it's us, the citizens. So I'm not really good with money, but you know, being a single mom here the past 20 years, I've learned to be a little bit more fiscally responsible. So with that in mind, have some questions. Like presently, the city's paid 1.1 million in attorney fees. Do we have any ideas? Is there going to be any other legal fees that the city and we are going to be asked to pay? I hate coming because I feel like when I come, it's like, here she comes, here comes trouble. But when I'm out of town, I want you councilmen to know that residents call me. They've asked me about this budget, and I can't answer the questions. I'm not really familiar with it, so I'm not pretending to be an expert, but I do have questions, and I am asking mayor and council, it would be great if you guys would put this off, or if you would have put it off until we could have more say in this, until we, as the residents, can at least understand where is this money going, because it looks like we're bleeding money. So I would ask that we have some forum where us, the community and the citizens and the taxpayers, can address some of the questions that not just me, but a lot of the other working moms and residents have. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Any other comments?
First, let me say, I agree with you, Mr. White, about civil discourse and being able to come to the council and just share comments, ask questions respectfully. And so with that, I want to make sure that, Monday when I was here, I had some questions, and Mr. Mayor seemed to overreact a little bit and kind of created more tension, I think, than it should have. But I want to kind of just talk a little bit about why I asked those questions.
I'm sorry to interrupt.
King 5242 cottage.
Thank you, sir.
So the first thing was on the audit, and I'm going somewhere with this because it's really kind of to your point, Ms. Norris, Carter. Yeah. So because I would love for you guys to consider delaying the vote at least a week or so. Here's where I'm going with this. So when I read through the forensic audit, again, I agree, Kroll is phenomenal. I mean, one of the best probably in the world at what they do. My only issue really was that when they gave you findings, they didn't really mirror the mayor's or his staff or his team's take on the findings.
Mr. King, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Do you have a question or comment about the
have a
resolution of the
comment.
budget?
I do. I have 2 minutes. Can I reclaim my time if you don't mind?
The Kroll report is not.
Can I reclaim my time if you don't mind? Because I'm trying to have civil discourse.
You can.
Okay, thank you.
I'm asking for you to comment on the resolution that's before us.
Yes. My comment initially on the resolution put forward is please consider delaying the resolution. If I can provide some context as to why I'm asking that, I appreciate it. Minute and a half. Erroneous financial reporting is what Kroll says. Not Mr. King, not AI, not political operatives in the world. That's what they say in your forensic audit. They say deleted, missing, and or destroyed records. That's what Kroll says. They say lack of formal policies and procedures. Kroll. Kroll says inadequate implementation of the Munis ERP system. They talk about that. Kroll says understaffing and high turnover in finance department. Kroll says that. Kroll says fluctuation in budgeting. Kroll also says lack of experience and skill gaps. That's what Kroll says. My favorite thing that Kroll says. You're gonna get a kick out of this one. They say, although we did not identify specific evidence of financial malfeasance or asset misappropriation by Hoover employees, the deficiencies noted throughout this report could create an opportunity to commit financial fraud. That is the last section 9 and the conclusion of the Kroll report. All I'm asking is, you guys put a lot of faith and trust, and I heard Mr. Lyda say the 2024 budget is actually this thick. Tell me lies, Mr. Mercado. Tell me these are lies from Kroll. I made all this up. The reality of it is this. If you put that kind of confidence and trust in folks that this is what they're telling you,
thank you, Mr. King.
I would encourage you to reconsider and delay the budget.
Thank you very much.
At least by 1 week. Thank you.
Anyone else like to speak tonight? Very good. We have a motion and a second for approval. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Council President Posey? Councilmember Swiney?
Aye.
Councilmember Driver?
Aye.
Councilmember Murphy?
Aye.
Councilmember Middlebrooks?
Aye.
Councilmember McClinton?
Aye.
Council President Lyda?
Aye, 7 ayes, 0 nays. We have a budget for the next fiscal year. Mr. Murphy?
Really quick, I want to reiterate a previous statement I made last meeting at when I asked the mayor to, because in these audits, you typically have a action plan, any type of audit, financial, environmentalist, from the EPA, ADEM, wherever you have it from, and you build a action plan off of that, you start correcting those particular items. So I have asked the mayor to give, establish quarterly reports on those different line items and how we're moving forward to try to address those line items as a result in the audit. So that'll be a public conversation, and also we video and keep forever, as long as YouTube is running, these videos online. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Murphy. Thank you for your attendance. We're adjourned.